Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the complete history of modern dance, from ancient rituals right up to the contemporary freedom we see today. And we often think of dance as just a series of pretty movements or something you do at a wedding, but it is actually this epic 300,000-year-old story of the human body in motion. It's essentially a massive tug of war between the strict filters of societal rules and the raw, unfiltered story of our real emotions. So let's explore exactly how humanity boxed itself in and then triumphantly broke completely free.
Actually, before we go way back to ancient times, let's bust a massive myth right out of the gate. Think about the year 1964. Now, most people assume that the famous Greek Sirtaki dance is this ancient folk tradition that's thousands of years old, right? Well, no way, not quite. It was literally invented in 1964 on the Hollywood movie set of Zorba the Greek. The actor, Anthony Quinn, actually broke his foot and couldn't jump for the scene, so he just started dragging his injured leg in this sliding step to get through it. A simple onset injury gave birth to what the entire world now considers ancient Greek culture. Wild, right?
But that easy mimicking kind of brings up a really great question. Why does our body inherently want to move when we hear a beat? Well, the answer is purely biological. We have these amazing things called mirror neurons in our brains. They literally fire up when we see other people moving or when we hear a rhythm, making our brains internally mimic the action. So when your absolute favorite song plays and your foot just starts tapping on its own, that's not just culture. That is your biological hardwiring doing its thing.
Okay, so here is our roadmap for today's journey. 1. Dance as an ancient language. 2. Birth of rules, the ballet era. 3. Rebellion of the barefoot, modern dance. 4. Social explosion, disco and hip-hop. And 5. Contemporary, art without borders.
Let's jump right into Section 1, Dance as an Ancient Language.
So, way before we could even speak in complex sentences, our bodies were already communicating. If you look back to 10,000 BC, Indian cave paintings show people in these distinct dancing poses. Back then, it was purely about survival, like imitating animals to ensure a good hunt. Fast forward a bit to 3,300 BC in Egypt, and collective ritual dances were being carved into tombs. You can kind of think of those as the social media posts of the ancient world. This eventually evolved into massive theatrical performances in ancient Greece and those big Slavic unity dances during the Middle Ages. Step by step, primal rituals evolved, leading us right up to a year that changed human movement forever, 1661.
Which brings us to Section 2, Birth of Rules, the Ballet Era.
Now, 1661 is the exact moment society decided to take all that primal energy of dance and strap it into a very, very tight corset. Ballet essentially became the Instagram filter of the 17th century. The French king Louis XIV opened the Royal Academy of Dance in Paris with one primary goal: make dance perfect, uniform, and heavily curated. It was a violent shift, really, from a raw expression of human emotion into this elite, elevated spectacle where visual perfection mattered way, way more than real feelings.
And to achieve that extreme visual perfection, they came up with some highly artificial rules. First, they fully formalized the 5 basic foot positions. Then came strict turnout, which is this highly unnatural outward rotation of the joints that dancers suffered for years to achieve, sometimes literally altering their physiology in the process. They even tried to defy gravity by inventing point shoes, just so ballerinas would appear as these weightless fairies floating over the stage. And finally, they established a strict hierarchy, from the prima ballerina all the way down to the people just holding spears in the background. It was incredibly beautiful for sure, but an unbelievably rigid language.
Now for Section 3, Rebellion of the Barefoot, Modern Dance.
You see, human nature just couldn't stay bound in a corset forever. By the 20th century, a massive revolution was brewing, and the contrast was absolutely staggering. On one side, you had ballet with its point shoes denying gravity and relying on strict structure. But on the exact opposite side, you had the ultimate no-makeup story of modern dance. These dancers completely threw away the point shoes and walked onto the stage completely barefoot. They traded incredibly tight tutus for loose, flowing tunics. And instead of faking weightlessness, they enthusiastically embraced gravity, falling, crashing, and rolling on the floor just to show the true heavy weight of the human body.
This intense barefoot rebellion had some incredibly fierce leaders, too. Isadora Duncan famously declared she wanted to dance naturally like the wind, literally performing barefoot on grass to completely merge with nature. Then came Martha Graham, who made dance even more brutally honest. She created her famous contraction and release technique, and this was based entirely on the natural cycle of human breathing and the highly visceral, physical spasms of pain. Graham definitively proved to the world that dance doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to be true.
All right, moving into Section 4, social explosion, disco, and hip-hop. While modern dance was dramatically taking over the grand theaters, the streets were completely exploding. I mean, the 20th century sped up at an incredible rate. In the roaring 1920s, youth shocked older generations by wildly kicking their legs to the Charleston. Then the 50s brought the frantic, high-contact, rebellious energy of rock and roll. By the 60s, you didn't even need a partner anymore. You just enthusiastically did the twist to express your complete individuality. The 70s gave us the brilliantly glittering era of disco, and then in the 80s, hip-hop and breakdance violently emerged on the streets of the Bronx. This highly acrobatic, intensely aggressive street style literally turned gang disputes into creative dance battles. Just like that, dance was right back to being a primal tool for survival and identity. And finally, Section 5, contemporary, art without borders.
So, what exactly happens when you mix the rigorous technique of ballet, the raw freedom of modern, and the unbridled energy of the streets? Well, you get what choreographer Alexander Mogilev perfectly describes. Dance is an exploration. Contemporary dance isn't just a rigid set of memorized moves or specific styles anymore. It's a constant, honest search. Do you need to express a profound thought? If it requires standing gracefully on point, you do it. If it requires a deep hip-hop groove or spinning on your head, you do that instead. The borders are completely gone. The human body reacts significantly faster than the brain does, and the contemporary dancer's job is just to honestly explore those lightning-fast reactions.
This wildly free idea actually reaches its absolute peak with Yvonne Rainer's famous postmodern No manifesto. She unapologetically said, "No to spectacle, no to virtuosity, no to magic, and no to transformations." Now, what does that actually mean for us? It means everyday movement is dance, reaching for a glass of water, taking a deep, exhausted breath, or just casually walking down the street. If it's done with pure honesty and clear intention, it is a completely valid dance. You absolutely do not need years of intense ballet school for your basic movement to be considered art. You really just have to be exactly who you are.
Which brings us right to our final thought for this explainer. Think about it. How does your body react to your favorite song today? Maybe it's the specific way you fix your hair, or your energetic, bouncy walk when you're in a great mood, or exactly how you subconsciously tap your fingers on a desk. You know, maybe that is your own completely unique contemporary dance. Over 300,000 incredibly long years, we aggressively went from jumping around a primal campfire to navigating strict, corseted royal courts, and finally, right back to total, unbridled freedom. So, next time you hear a truly great beat, please, don't hold back. Just let your biological mirror neurons do their thing, drop all the societal filters, and boldly dance your own raw story. Thanks for joining me.